Hi guys. So I decided I want to start trying to do some interviews with people that I meet while traveling on the road. I want to share more about other people like you, my followers. So I'd like to introduce you guys to Rob Juliano. He's been a businessman. He's lost everything, became homeless. He's lived in the mountains for years. He's been in the seminar business, and he's probably one of the most interesting men that I know personally. And he's my uncle. So say hi to my Uncle Rob.
Hey, hi. Here we sit.
So tell me, where are you from?
So I was born in Elmhurst, Illinois.
Okay.
My first dad, my birth dad, your birth grandpa, passed away when I was 6 years old. He was an interesting gentleman. He was basically in the mafia. He owned the largest demolition company in Chicago at the time. Did a lot of business with Melrose Bank, people who know who they are. And he passed away. And then my mom remarried my stepdad, who's dad, and he's another interesting character. He was a frogman back in the Korean War, better known as a Navy SEAL.
Navy SEAL, yep.
And then when he went into back into civilian population, he was what they call a GS-15 ranked government man. He ran the Department of Atomic Energy, or the place actually was a couple of places, on Argonne National Laboratory and Fermilab, which was the atomic smasher that we had, and we still have today. So he was a very important man, very stressful life. And when he married, your grandma, he had 4 kids, and grandma had 4 kids, and so we had 8 kids, and he was always gone. So he quit the government 5 years before actually retiring, and moved us to Bend, Oregon. We grew all our own food, kind of like Swiss Family Robinson. I basically call Bend, Oregon home. So
I grew up in Bend, Oregon too.
Yes, you did.
You know that though, because you're my uncle.
Right.
Which I love Bend, Oregon.
Yeah.
And you lived in it before I even lived in it, so you saw the real, true Bend, Oregon.
It's amazing what's happened there. It's when we were kids there back in the late 70s, it was mullets, flannel shirts, old pickups with loaded guns in the back. There was a mill in town, population 14,000 people. I think today it's well over 250,000 people in Central Oregon. Central Oregon's turned into a very uppity up place, lots of money, and it's unrecognizable to me now. So yeah, it's changed. Oh,
even when I went back there, I remember growing up as a kid there too, and the old mill district was there. There was maybe an ice cream shop and a movie theater when I grew up there, and it was still somewhat farm town. And the last time I went, I was like, what has become of this?
Yeah, I call it the Beverly Hills of Oregon.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And the attitude comes with it too.
Yeah, a little bit. A little bit. Driving around, you kind of see that sometimes.
It's big city and all flash.
Yeah, I had a Washington license plate, and some guy got mad and told me, go back to where you came from. I was like, whoa, what happened here, Oregon?
Yeah, he was probably a Bendite, a local, that's lived there all his life.
Probably.
So, yeah.
You've made a lot of money in the business.
Made a lot of money at 29 years old. I've tasted money before when I was in the seminar business when I was 25 years old. I was making 6 figures, going from being homeless to helpless to uneducated to street smart. And that business just exploded. And the people I was hiring were, some of them were in their 40s, and they're listening to this 29-year-old. But I knew my stuff. And we did a couple of things that made the news. The floods happened in 1997. We just hired all these people, bought all this equipment, and we're getting ready to put people out. And the dam broke, and the whole city was in a code red. Made national news.
Wow.
And all of the appointments we had set to really go to the big level, they all canceled.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, and so the machine that we sold actually extracted water. And so I had a meeting with all our new people. I said, we can't run appointments. We just spent $100,000 on equipment. We spent money on training for you guys, and now we're shut down until this emergency is over. There's always something you can do. There's always some benefit in a tragedy. You just have to have the open mind to find it. And I find that a wonderful challenge. That's the adventure of life. It's not the destination, it's the journey. That's the fun part, is the creativity and openness to find solutions. And we did. The machines we sold picked up water. And we ordered a bunch of the 5-gallon buckets, and I asked our staff of people that I just barely knew, guys, we can't pay you for this, but you know what we can do is take our equipment, brand new equipment, and go out and help people suck water out of their homes and basements and sewer, and it would be a charity we would do for the city, and that's what we did.
Wow.
For 2 weeks.
Wow.
And the trauma that my new staff went through, and feeling so good for what they did, but they went through their traumas and saw the devastation people went through. One of my top gals, Carrie Geddes, got a bite from a brown recluse, and
wow.
And when the city finally, everything was fixed, and we're ready to roll business again. Now we have all this equipment, 100 of them. That have been used and scratched and picked up sewer and just disgusting flood stuff, oil, just what the soup of a flood is just awful. They were all exhausted. And then the mayor of Fort Collins, Colorado, gave us the key to the city.
Wow.
And everybody knew who we were.
Yeah.
And so what we had to do is clean our machines, bleach them, sanitize them, and we had to create our own warranties. The factory wouldn't back them up anymore, and we went out and sold them, and it exploded. Our company overnight just bam, hitting hundreds of sales in a month when most companies are 50 and 80, at the most. And then one more thing happened at the end of that year. Our top salesman, Danny Neal, and I asked him, what do you want for Christmas? And he says, well, he's 39 years old. And he says, I'd sure love to meet my twin brother. And I was, what? There's 2 of you? Oh my God, save the world, I said, what's his name? He says, Bertram O'Neill. And I was like, oh, well, So he left the office and I called a PI. We didn't have Google search or anything like that at this time in 1997. And just a few days after I called the PI, he called me back and said, I found his brother. He's in Syracuse, New York.
Wow. So
I called Danny in the office. I was like, Danny, get back to the office. And he thought he was in trouble or something. Brought him into my office, closed the door, and on the speaker I called up and the number, and as Bertram's wife answered, and I said, is Bertram there? And who's calling? I said, I'm here with his brother, Danny Neal. And so they got on the phone. It was just amazing to experience that, to be able to give it as a gift, too.
Yeah.
And weird thing is, and I think the PI did this, just a couple hours later, Channel 7 News from Denver came into my office.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, they wanted the story.
Yeah.
Christmas is coming, so
like a sweet little Christmas story.
Right.
Brothers meet.
Well, I wanted to continue it. So being the entrepreneur that I am, I was like, So what if I call MSNBC, CNN, all the mainstream news and say, would you like to have the Christmas story of the year?
Yeah. I'm
going to send Danny to New York, Syracuse, New York. My company's going to fly him there. We're going to have a limo, and you guys meet when they meet. And that's exactly what happened. Wow. And it was all over. I remember I was out running an appointment, and they called me up, go find a TV somewhere. It's on the news right now. And saw him there. And then so what happened after that, he was there till New Year's Eve, and their birthday was on New Year's Eve. Oh, wow. And everybody, they went downtown New York to watch the ball drop, and so many people knew who they were. Yeah, from watching the TV, right? Yeah, the Christmas story that your twins brought together, they've been separated since birth, and the sad story, the backstory to that is his parents were in the car, and they were backing out of the driveway, and somebody hit them and killed them both when they were babies. And so they got lost in the system, basically. They got separated through adoptions and foster care and stuff like that, and they just never met each other. And they were identical. They looked identical. Wow. And so when he came back to Fort Collins, well, that was number 2 of people appreciating our company and the integrity, and of course Danny's sales were phenomenal because he walked up with a plaque with all the newspapers. Hi, I'm Danny, and they were like, "You're the guy on TV, come in," So I give a lot of credit to our success in a very, very difficult business, to really expressing our integrity over the politics, and actually showing proof versus talk. So, and have my coffee out on the railing going, wow, I made it, know? Yeah. I mean, I remember being a young kid and thinking, I have the coolest uncle in the whole wide world. And then what happened? No. Exactly. No, so that's the next question I'm going to say. So
What happened to that? Like, you're not doing it now, so what?
No, this is, I shut that down in 1999. We got into a political crossfire with the manufacturing company, the guy that owned the place. The product we were buying was a jerk, a tyrant, and he never liked me. And most offices, they had distribution centers around the world. It was a big organization, and we were #1 in every category for 2 years in a row. Well, the owner of the manufacturing company didn't like that because it undermined his power of controlling everybody. So we got into a political crossfire. He was set out to destroy us. And I'll never forget, I never liked the guy. He was he looked like a Saddam Hussein with blonde hair, and a cigar and everything, just ego,
Yeah.
So he wanted to come and meet all our people. So we rented a convention room. We had all 140 employees come, plus their spouses. It was like 200 and some people there. And I have to be politically right and introduce him on the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, here's Doug Swift. He started as a postman and worked his way up, and now he owns the manufacturing company. Let's give him a hand. And he walked up on the stage, and I'm rolling my eyes going, oh, God, it's so... And he said on the stage, he says, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what the Campbells, my partner, and the Julianos have been telling you, but they don't know what the
Excuse me, sorry. We seem to be having technical difficulties here. All right, we're back now. Enjoy.
They're doing. And I knew we were done. Everything got more difficult. Things became mandatory. Either we do it his way or we're canceled. One office is gone now. Another office is gone now. The mojo's gone. The energy is gone because we have this dictatorship, kind of like what's going on with our country right now.
Yeah.
I have to add that. I have my opinions on that. I believe in the free enterprise world, but it's more difficult for people to start their own businesses and even run YouTube channels now.
Yeah.
Regulations and censorship is not what this country's about.
Yeah.
And so I took to drinking and partying again at the latter part of that experience. And I'm single now. I've got all these suits and gold, and I'm like the Andrew Tate of the 90s,
Yeah.
Hey, and I went out to chase women again. And I remember it was 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was drunk. And I remember I left Denver doing 140 miles an hour, and the overpasses were this is all I remember. And next thing you know, I wake up in my bed, and I'm in my suit. It's torn. I smell like puke. And I had this anxiety attack that I thought I was dying. With the amount of alcohol and just going, oh my God, what did I do last night?
Yeah, what you weren't aware at all. You didn't remember.
So my heart, and I couldn't calm it down. And I called my manager at the time. I said, shut it down.
Yeah.
Lock the doors. I'm done. I can't, this is going to kill me. And I took what I had left and moved to Oregon. And at that point, I was like, I don't care. I'll be a logger at this point. I don't care. So anyways, that's what happened in the business. And from there, it was jobs and normal life. And when you've had that taste of that much success, especially at a young age, you feel it's kind of the same form as a child star, a child star gone bad type feeling, because my ethos, which is your confidence in business and doing transactions in the business arena, is completely injured at this point. So from there, it's been quite a journey.
Yeah, because you've had it all and then lost it all.
Yeah.
You saw the highest of the highs and you saw the lowest of the lows growing up as well. You were homeless, you had to live in your car, you've worked your way up to the top, all just to have it kind of crash down.
Yeah.
And you've always been the type of person where you don't really want to work for the man.
No.
So I'm very similar to that too, although I grew up very programmed. Oh, get a job, have a house, have a family, marry, blah, blah, blah. I didn't awaken until the 2 years ago that I started living in the FJ Cruiser and realizing.
So proud of you for doing that.
Yeah.
I remember before you did that, all the same fears.
Yep.
I knew those fears. and did not have enough money to do it. And
Nope,
we
still
happen,
don't.
well, we happen to have enough money to help you, but I knew innately that no, you got to face that fear.
Yeah, that's crazy. They had the money, but no, they didn't want to. They wanted me to experience it on my own,
All
to
the fears.
figure it out.
Yeah, and you did.
Yeah, I did.
And you're still doing it.
Yep, making it work. So I've only heard this story once, but I would like to hear it again. You lived in Mexico. What exactly happened in Mexico?
Yeah, that was in 1990 through 91.
Okay.
So I was in the seminar business previous to that, and if your audience doesn't know what that means, it's like the Andrew Tate people, these super achievers of those times. And these are all authors, famous authors, still being used today. The people I worked for, we represented was Tom Hopkins, everybody knows Tony Robbins, Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy, Jim Rohn, Peter Lowe. These are all famous, grow rich, self-improvement coaches of the 80s and even before that, Augmentino in the 70s. And I got to know these. They were my mentors. Like I did horrible in school and I was home reading their books, So I quit the seminar business and we drove down to San Jose del Cabo, Mexico, which is right next to Cabo San Lucas. And we were there to run a small resort and start selling timeshare. It was called the Las Bugambilias Resort. And when we got there, we were lied to about a lot of stuff, a lot of stuff. And we weren't even in a position to market it because you have to use gifts, local gifts to come tour our resort. You don't have to buy anything and you get a free round of golf at this golf course. Come tour our resort and you get free dinner here. When we got there, we found out that the previous company that was running it owed everybody in town. Which would have cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to pay these companies for gifts.
Yeah.
And we're like, what do we do? And this is all on my money, from the seminar business and my credit cards and stuff. So we opened a restaurant in downtown San Jose del Cabo. It was called Patio Local. And we made a variety of different foods. And I made my famous meatball sandwich. And everybody's like, you're making Italian food in Mexico? Yeah, everybody's sick of it. If you've been there for more than 3 days, you're getting tired of Mexican food.
Yeah.
But my purpose of opening that was to get the people, come to our timeshare, we give you free dinner for 4 at Patio Local. So that's why we did it.
Yep.
And we had a few people tour the resort, and then the owners of the resort flew in to meet us and find out, what can we do to help you. One of them, there's 3 of them, and their group is called Grupo Hercules. And one of them owns the only construction company for all the roads in Mexico. Big money.
Okay.
But, in Mexico, there's cartel affiliation and this stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember when we picked them on their Learjet and they had the long hair and I'm like, oh my God.
You're like, who am I
what have I
involved
gotten
with?
myself into?
Yeah.
And the other one owned all the import-export rights for all ice cream.
Wow.
Yeah. And we picked them up from the airport and they had their phone call meeting and because only one of them came out and he says, well, we're going to wait for about a year. So give us a year and we would love to have you guys back. And so that was gone. And that took about 9 months, 10 months. And so I lived in Mexico for 9 months.
And opened a restaurant. In Mexico.
Which is nothing.
Doing Italian food.
Which was nothing in Mexico. You don't need a license for anything, and everything's money.
Yeah.
I've been pulled over there and you just throw money. It's all true, A couple of scary things happened there. It was very strange. But I got to the point where I felt safer there than any city in the United States. And there was an edginess there. There's always an edginess in these type of countries. You just have that corruption.
Yeah.
But it felt, and you found this out in your adventures, when you're out there and you're in a certain vulnerable state, whether it's animals or just not the safest place in the world, there's something to be said for having that little bit of edginess.
Yeah.
It keeps you honest. It keeps you paying attention. And then when you have moments where you know you're safe and everything's good, where you can rest, and it seems to be important than being fat, safe, and comfortable all the time. And
True.
that's what people
True.
need to get out of.
Yeah, they really do.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people ask me when I'm in the FJ, like, isn't that uncomfortable? Or like, don't you want something bigger? And yeah, of course I want something bigger. And yeah, it's very uncomfortable, but I like to adapt to those situations.
Yeah.
I like that uncomfortable because it teaches you something. And I strive better when I'm uncomfortable, because when we get comfortable, we tend to get comfortable,
Yeah.
if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
We lose the idea of, hey, we need to learn something, and we just keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. And like we talked about before, we get stuck in that cycle of just feeling comfortable. I don't know if we talked about that on here, but we talked about it earlier today. Yeah. We get stuck in our own little ways
You have people that'll say to you, and I'm sure you have, and I have through my adventures in life, that sounds great, but what about the real world?
Yeah.
And I'm like, what real world are you talking about, where you're sitting comfortably safe in your couch watching TV, you have plenty of food, you're safe, the bills are paid, and you're still sitting there worrying about the future and worrying about this and how long is this going to be? You mean that world? Is that reality?
Yep.
You know, and that's crazy. But let's face it, and some people aren't going to like to hear this, we need people to make food. We need people to build computers. We need people to go 9-to-5 jobs and serve everyone. And then there needs to be the entrepreneur and there needs to be the pioneers discovering new territories. So not everybody's cut out for it. And my recommendation for everybody, if you're a 9-to-5er and you'll never do what she's doing, just be okay with that.
Yep, but a lot of people aren't okay with that. A lot of people, they want something more, but they're not willing to take that step.
Right.
And then some people will take that step and they'll do it for a couple months, a couple weeks, a couple days, and they realize, oh, this isn't what I actually thought it was. Like they see that, oh, this is not what I thought it was going to be. And a lot of people, when they watch my videos, they're like, it's so inspirational. Like, oh my gosh, she's living the dream. I am not living the dream. It might seem like it, but there are days where even I'm like, why am I out here doing this? It's not easy to do this lifestyle.
Well,
there are lots of struggles.
I heard a really good saying the other day, which is true, and I've heard a lot of great sayings.
Yeah.
And I'm always looking for them, and I kind of create, and you do, we all, that us that are out there taking these chances in life, we come up with great sayings, and then we share them with each other. But Thomas Jefferson said something like, I would rather live free in the wild and unsafetyness of life than be a safe slave. Okay? And some people, that just burns deeper. Like, you have to be sick and tired, like you have been, of being sick and tired of that hamster wheel. And some people, they need that. Yeah. You know? But those that are, like, feeling like doing it, you went through it like, well, when I have this much money, when I finish this project, and then I'll do it, I'll do it. Sequence of events led you up to I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I have to face this fear now because I know that's really what I want to do.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and I didn't have a high-paying job that I left. I had a good job, but it wasn't a high-paying job. I was pretty much like everybody else, clocking in 9 to 5.
I've been there.
Barely making enough to pay for rent at a room that I rented. You know, definitely not living the high life at all. So it took me a while to have confidence. You heard me saying it for 2-3 years. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And my family eventually they got tired and said, yeah, sure, you're going to do it. Right. Like they started losing faith I was going to do it until during COVID, I was like, you know what? Like, if I don't do this, I'm not ever going to do it. And that's when I took the jump. It's like, I need to do this now. I can't keep saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this when I have this, when I have that, when the time's right. The time is never right.
Well, look at it this way. The Native Americans today, they're all in reservations. They have guaranteed income. What's happened to them? They have a certain amount of comfort in places that are not really that comfortable. Their land was taken from them. And they become drug addicts, depressed, they're pissed off. They pass it on through their generations, but the food is still there and they're still taken care of. So what happened to them? See, and that's what happens to people. really the way they used to live was they would hunt, and sometimes they would have a great hunt, buffalo everywhere, oh my God, and they would shoot the buffalo and they bring it back to their tribe, and they haven't been eating that great for the last 2 weeks, and all of a sudden they have a feast. So they have this high moment, and they would use every piece of the buffalo, and then they'd light a fire, and the warriors would dance around it and tell stories, exaggerated stories, and it would last so long, and then food wouldn't become as plenty. I think that's the way we're supposed to live, to get the full flavor of finding out who we are.
We are. We're not supposed to live in this dumbed down society. We're not supposed to live in this, oh, I have to go to work, I've got to make money, I've got to support my household. We're supposed to support ourselves in nature. We weren't bred.
That works.
We weren't brought into this world to be a slave to society. Back in the cavemen days, they foraged for their food. They built their own homes. They didn't clock into a computer and sit on their phones for hours on end just typing away.
And then also there's a modern thing that's been going on for over 100 years in America, especially. A lot of people come from other countries and they can't create a life that they are still to this day able to create in America. You get somebody from India, that you see them all over the world, or Asian people, they come here and they work their butts off and they don't complain like the spoiled sit and just punch a clock people. They open businesses, they work hard. There's more Asian students in Harvard right now, and so they've taken full advantage of the American dream. That's still possible today. So if you're sitting and complaining about your life not being that great and you're stuck in that routine of just paying your bills, saying, I hope someday, when this, when that, the true essence of life is to just do it. Ready, fire, aim. Most people ready, aim, they think about it too much and they find more reasons over a period of time to never do it. We have more ability than that.
Well, and our brains are so powerful. Our minds have such control over what we do throughout our entire life. If we were to think positive all the time, how many things would actually become positive? Just like you said, they think about it, they think, and then suddenly they don't do it because they've thought about it for so long that they build all of these objectives in their mind of, oh, well, if I do this, I won't be able to do that. And I'm guilty of this too. I think about that all the time. Like, oh, I don't know if I should do that. Like, I don't know if it'll work. And then I don't end up doing it.
Right.
Whereas if we train our minds to actually just say, I'm going to do that, and then directly go do it, it would make life a lot simpler.
That's what I say, everybody, go find out. Go find out. There's 4 levels to learning anything and becoming proficient at it. I was taught this a long time ago. I haven't forgotten it, and I've applied it in most of my life, is you think about something you want to do, and then you decide to go do it. When you first start anything that's exciting, but you don't know, you are unconsciously incompetent. You don't really know what you're getting into, but now you're doing it. And then you become the second thing, which is you become consciously incompetent, like, oh my God, what have I got myself into? I don't know what the heck I'm doing. And that's where most people stop and they just go back home. Okay, what was I thinking? But if you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, you'll get past that second phase and you'll roll into the third level of learning anything, which is you become consciously competent. Now you kind of know how it works, but you still have to kind of think about it and plan and strategize, like packing your car, packing your luggage. It'd be better if I put it over here this time, and I use this more often, so I need to put that in the front, and then pretty soon you get to the next level, which is becoming unconsciously competent, which means you don't have to think about it. You can do salts here, this, and my pants here. I need to. You can just, and like a professional tennis player, they don't think about where they're going to hit, and so why not become proficient and unconsciously competent in something that you're passionate about?
Yeah, and a lot of people aren't able to do that because there's always that kind of little voice in the back of their head saying, I don't know if you can do that. And that's our biggest enemy, is ourselves. And I'm guilty of that all the time. I doubt so much. And it's if you can get past that doubt, if you can actually be like, hey, you know what? Yeah, sure, I think that, but I know that I'm worthy and I know I can achieve this. That's where you find the peace. That's where you find
It's almost as if we have an alien parasite implanted in our brains called thinking. When animals, they don't think about thinking like we do. And it's this parasite that will take from you but never give back. And that's what definition of a parasite. They take from the host and never give anything in return.
Yeah.
And I think some of our purpose in life, metaphorically speaking, is to destroy the parasite. You know, and just be here like animals are, but able to think, you know, but it doesn't own you. It's called, the Buddhist monks call it monkey mind, where your mind's just jumping from tree limb to tree limb to tree limb. And our civilization, the Western civilization, they have no, they don't teach people how to, like my generation, we were taught how to psychologically change our state, and it's because they moved into medication. That was the dream. The Future Shock is a book they all talk about are the future books, that they want to create medication to make you smarter, make you not depressed. You know, and this didn't exist in the 80s, and now the pharmaceutical world is basically giving people sugar tablets, with most of antidepressants are already known as a placebo effect. They believe in the tablet more. They don't realize you're doing that. So the mission in life, and when I was living in the mountains for a year, is to end the monkey mind. The thinking. It's like a monkey, swinging around. You know, we all know what we're talking about here. But how do you get still enough to quiet the monkey down? And if you can quiet the monkey down, you see the opportunities that before you had blinders on. I need to work. I need to pay bills. You know. And if you calm the mind down and take control over it, not through medication, through meditation and contemplation, your blinders open up, your peripheral starts seeing the direction. So, and you can't find that out unless you do it.
Truth.
Nobody can talk you, they can talk you into it, but
they can give you guidance,
right,
and they can give you ideas of how to achieve that. But in reality, it all comes down to you,
right,
you know, because you have the control of your thoughts. Nobody else, they can kind of persuade your thoughts a little bit or direct your thoughts into a way. But if you don't allow that control from them, you don't think that.
To try to maintain happiness is delusional. You cannot maintain happiness. There's a better word for it, and Jordan Peterson talked about this. But basically he says there's a word that replaces happiness because it's not true. You can't maintain it no matter how much you try. The word is adventure. Look at everything in life, no matter if it's good or bad, as I'm here for my adventure. And it changes your state into, I don't like that this is happening. It's like, well, let's be up for the adventure.
You know, it's funny too, because I can turn adventure into a not so inspiring word either, because a lot of people, when you say, oh, what are you doing? Oh, we're going off on an adventure to the grocery store. It's like, what?
It's not an adventure.
Right? How is that an adventure? But in reality, adventure could be anything.
Anything. It's just a better way to, it's a better frame of state because it's open to unskillful experience and skillful experience, to where this may not be pleasant, but wisdom is different than intelligence. Intelligent people try to find intelligent ways to constantly stay on par or above par, always accelerating up. Wisdom involves making decisions that you know aren't always going to be good decisions, but you're interested in the long term, the longer term effect of that. Oh yeah, and see, I've never, and the same goes for you, I've never really fit into the society normal, if you want to call it. Like for me, I don't plan things, not always. I will just live day by day. I will just, a lot of people don't understand that too. They're like, so what are your plans? Like I get asked this so much and I don't know how to answer it. People are saying, well, what are your plans? What are you doing? And I'm like, I'm on the no plan. I have no idea. Yeah, I really don't. I'm on the no plan. I would add to them, you know, here's a really wise and intelligent, you can't argue with the decision. The only thing that's happening is right now, this is the absolute epitome of reality, and I find out that if I just stay here and not plan every freaking thing in my life, like I'm going to plan on dinner maybe tonight, that's the adventure. There's this like romantic experience when you're just in this reality, non-delusional, and just here. You know. And you know what's funny though, when you tell somebody, oh, well, I don't have a plan, or oh, I don't have anything that I'm going to do, or I don't really need to do anything, a lot of people will reply with, well, that must be nice. And it's like, wait a second, you don't understand the concept of
not having a plan or not. It's not that it's like I'm able to do that. It's I choose to do it. It's not that, oh my gosh, I have this amazing life that I don't have to do anything. It's because I'm allowing life, universe, God, whatever you believe in, to guide me towards my direction. So it's not that I don't have plans, or it's not that, oh, my life must be so nice, as most people say. It's that I'm just allowing things to happen the way that they should happen.
That's bolder.
Yeah.
To be somebody, and I've been there, that just works hard, grinds the stone, works hard, and then the weekend, weekend's here, everybody gets together, they have a barbecue, they smoke weed, they drink beer, Sunday comes along, and now they're they're like getting mentally prepared to go do something they don't want to do, and then it turns out to be the Monday blues. Mm-hmm. It's a program. It's not the real. So the people that say it must be nice, I'm going to be a Gen Xer for a minute.
Sure.
You too are entitled to realize your dreams. Yeah. Entitled. But this whole new programming is going on. It's a whole new movement right now that they're trying to alleviate that American dream. Mm-hmm. It needs to take a back seat because we need to create a sustainable future. And I'm seeing this, why, what is it, Gen Z and all these different generations are just becoming softer and less able to cope with their mental issues.
Yeah.
And they want nothing more and more. Like my generation loves cool cars and their generation hates cars, Yeah. And so I'm watching, and that's the downside of being so free, is you start seeing the obvious.
Yeah.
And then you separate more and more with the people, it must be nice. And you can look at them and say, well, are you saying you want to do it?
Yeah.
You're saying you want to do it, but you're saying you can't?
Yeah.
Why? Because you made some bad decisions when you were a kid. Now you have a family that you're regretting.
Yeah.
And you're just going to send them to school and daycare centers and take drugs, you know? You still can. Why don't you show your kids how to turn that around?
Yeah. Well, and it's to touch a little bit more. I want to touch on mental health a little bit too, because that's a very sensitive subject. People will probably click away even when I start saying mental health. Ooh, scary. Oh no, mental health.
It's nothing.
And a lot of people will say, oh, depression, anxiety, all these types of things are just a mindset. They don't actually exist. I agree to an extent. They are definitely a mindset, but there's a lot of times where you believe it so deeply in yourself that you're like, oh no, it must be like, I definitely have this. But in reality, it is purely our minds.
Well, you just said it.
Yeah.
What the mind can believe, conceive, will achieve.
Yeah.
And all you have to do is rewrite your story. But people hang on to their story. It's a parasitic thing that actually is a story that you were programmed to believe. You find these things that make you feel happy, motivated, safe. I'm this superhero. I'm this gender. Whatever you want the mind to believe. And then you go, I want to believe it. I want to believe it. I want to believe it. I believe it. And then now I'm going to force it into conception. I'm going to conceive it. I'm going to conceive it. And now you've just programmed yourself into a delusional reality. And you're going to fight everybody that dares challenges that mental construent. The mind is easy once you understand what to do with it, but it's not easy to reprogram yourself.
No, not at all.
No.
There are still times where I deal with it. A lot of times I get depressed or anxious or something like that. And, I've been with a couple people where they said, oh, your depression rubs off on me or your anxiety rubs off on me. And what they're not realizing, it's not that I'm rubbing off on them. It's their own insecurities and their own projections that I'm actually mirroring to them. And it makes them uncomfortable.
They're remembering. So, and that's what people do. That's what we do. And to be an individual entity, a light on your own, you get to the point where there's no more mentors. You have to follow your own light of understanding and not be so sensitive to what's influencing you. You could be selective, but if somebody says your negativity is running off on me, well, what you're saying is you already have that built in, and because I'm bringing you in the past, it's pulling that out.
Yeah.
See, I had anxiety attacks over 15 years ago. I didn't take medication for it, and when I first got it, I couldn't believe I had it. I didn't, I went to a doctor and they're like, you're having anxiety attacks. And I'm in the seminar business entrepreneur. I'm like, no way I have anxiety. Me? I'm Mr. Positive.
Yeah.
But that sucker snuck in, And, I'd lay in bed, I'd be falling asleep, and then it feels like you're falling into a darkness and like you're not breathing.
Yeah.
And I remember how I cured it. And it's cured. I haven't had a problem since. And even if I have hints of it, I'll have hints of it, but I know exactly
always.
what to do. It's nothing, because I know it's not true. And people are like, what are you talking about? It's not real. Well, depression, clinical depression and anxiety is not real. But it is. If you know how
you're going to piss off some people saying it's not real.
well, and I tell people you need to understand this. If you hearing that pisses you off, notice what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're protecting something.
Yep.
So the fact that you're protecting that anxiety or depression, you've decided to use that story to benefit you somehow in life. And you know it's so real because you can feel it.
Yeah.
The problem is once you've reached depression or anxiety, you know how to get there again, and you keep remembering how to get there. And then you start isolating scenarios in your life. That depresses me, that conversation depresses me, I feel anxiety when I put myself in that situation. And then what people do is they just stop doing that.
Yeah.
They stop doing it. You know what's sad? There's over 20 million Americans who wake up every morning and they're so excited about life. They're so excited.
Yeah.
They run downstairs, they don't even take a shower, and they're out all day doing what they do till dark. And they come back and they're dirty and sweaty, and they gobble their food down, and they don't even want to go to bed yet, and then finally they crash and they're still dirty from yesterday, and they get up again. They're so excited about life. Do you know what the sad thing is?
What?
Most of them are under the age of 5.
Yeah, that's true.
What happened to us? Well, this is what happened. Mommy, can I have this? No. Daddy, can I have this? No. What is this? Don't touch it. No. No. You can't. You won't. You shouldn't. And so the first 7 years of your life, you're being conditioned with parents doing the best they can. Yeah. You come from a poor family, you're getting that a lot more with inspiring to have more, And so we just stop asking for what we want because I don't want the association of pain. Then we'll just sit and dream about it, and I'll sit and dream about it so long that I'll finally take the dream and run it into, I don't really want to do that. That's a lot of work and blah, blah, blah. Okay, back to the TV.
Program. Programmed, yeah.
And you have to truly be sick and tired of being sick and tired to be bold enough to just work hard. I tell all my friends, and I've told them this for years because I used to be one of them too, I'm not afraid of working hard. Man, we work hard. I tell them that you're a wimp compared to following your heart. That is more fearful. It has no clear vision. It's pure aspiration, inspiration. It's pure heart chakra. I am here to follow my heart and learn the difference between a heart memo, inspired, and my mind. Because a lot of times our mind talks to our heart and blocks the actual understanding of what you really want. But only the bold will go out and fail. Only the bold will keep going out. Well, I guess that wasn't heart. I screwed myself up again. Okay, let's take a memo of that next time. And the more you do that, you build your intuition, you can feel it, and you make wise decisions over intelligent decisions. That's why we're here. Yeah. And some people aren't. That's okay. Go wash our cars. Go make dinner. I was that way too. And there's nothing wrong. I'm not judging it. I'm not belittling. I'm entitled, and so are you. Everyone is entitled.
A little bit,
Everyone is entitled to be free, happy. We're born on this earth where everything's provided. The food's provided, the water's provided, the oxygen's provided. It just keeps growing. And then humanity came and corralled it and put dollars on it. You are all entitled to be happy. You are all entitled to be in love. You are all entitled to have peace. You're entitled to have big dreams of big boats, yachts, or just a rowboat. You are entitled, and I encourage everybody to encourage each other to the entitlement of being happy, for God's sakes, and your adventure. And I don't want to be around anybody that says, oh, you think you're entitled? Get away from me. Go to a repressed third world country where if you're gay, they're going to throw you off a roof. Okay, go there.
Yeah.
You know, this is America, and they're trying to destroy this beauty of freedom.
Yeah.
Is.
Well, we're able to pick and choose who we want to spend our time with. We're able to pick and choose the people that we want to surround ourselves with. And being truly authentic, exactly who you are, and not changing yourself will get you around the people who you actually want to be around with. And a lot of times we forget that. We morph ourselves into what we think other people want to see. We try to become something that we're not because we think, oh, well, if we just became this person, then maybe that person will want to be with me or will want to hang out with me.
Well, let me ask you something, because I say this to everybody. It's another thing people don't like to hear. There's no such thing as loneliness. And that's another thing that people want to add to their story and all get together and write a real sad song about it and paint about it, make a movie about it. But loneliness there's no such thing as loneliness unless you believe it. And I know many people that are married with kids and they're lonely and have friends all over the place. But when now that you've experienced being out in nature by yourself and nobody around for multiple days, what do you feel?
Very complicated question because, there are times where I feel, oh, I'm alone. I would love to have somebody here to spend this time with me, to experience it, because I've experienced both by myself entirely and with someone entirely. And of course, I loved it with someone, but at the same time, when I was alone, it was more peaceful because I was my own essence. I was doing my own thing the way that I wanted to do it, and I didn't have to worry about anybody else but myself.
Multiple days.
Yeah.
And that's what I've never experienced lonely. I've missed people that have passed in my life or moved away from. And that's something I've had my whole life. Maybe it's a gift. I don't know. Some people used to say, you're just traumatized real bad. And you're lonely and you don't even know it. I'm like, no, when I go out in the wilderness, I feel in the presence of Source. I feel it's one-on-one with everything more important than the drama between people trying to figure stuff out. Because in reality, we all know it already. Yeah. We're just uncovering it and remembering it. And so that's what I've been chasing my whole life, and that's why I haven't lived a normal life. Yes, I've had 9-to-5 jobs, and I've been through all that, but it just violates my soul.
Yeah, and a lot of it too is programming, again, because we're programmed to have somebody in our life. The society has made it like the American dream to have a husband and wife, to have children, to have a house, to have somebody with you. So many people are in that mindset of, I have to have somebody in order for my life to be happy. So many people think that, and that's not true at all. Because
but only if they believe it.
True, because I'm still in that stage where, I would love to have somebody to build my life with. But at the same time, I've experienced both sides of that story. I've been completely alone, and I've been with somebody and felt completely alone with that person. And so I've realized when I'm out there are moments where I think, am I truly lonely, or am I just programmed to think I'm lonely?
Well, and I'll add something to that. Who inside of you is asking those questions?
And see, that's another very confusing thing, because
something had to be there before the origination of the question to experience the feeling. So we question ourselves with stuff like that. Am I really lonely, or is it this? You're going to sit for a second and feel your own questions. But who's back here way before you ask these questions is just peacefully inside of you. It never has a problem. It's always existed. It has no shape, no form. It's not male or female. It's your soul, being, energy, sitting there in the peace of being able to ask yourself that question. You get to decide whether you believe it or not, and then live it out. That's called manifesting.
Exactly. And so many people are not able to do that.
They don't have time to even think about it because they're stuck, trying to impress. People don't realize, I'm just trying to pay the bills. I'm trying to, here's me and my wife and our kids. And it's a facade. I can read it, and it's a facade, and they're more interested in treating life like a dress rehearsal. Until something traumatic happens. A neighborhood that doesn't talk to each other. A tornado hits the area. It's traumatic enough where all of a sudden everybody comes together. A war possibly happening now might be needed spiritually because people are so separated that the ugliness in our spoiled little minds to bring us together again. It's a cycle of life. But Who's pioneering the new direction? People like you.
Yeah.
You know?
We're going to talk a little bit more about you. I know we got off topic a little bit and got all onto the emotional stuff and the kind of the...
Well, and I got to say, 40% of what I've just said, it's all inspiring and everything, it's still a work in progress with me. So, you know, I'm going to be hypocritical of some of the things I'm saying, but it's just like exercising. Go back and do it again, you know, keep until it sticks. So.
Same for me. I mean, people will say things when they're feeling something and then go back and think to themselves, wait, why did I say that? So let's share a little bit about things that you've done in your life. So what was the water thing about cars? Some crazy thing he did with water and vehicles, which got shut down. You've done motorcycle adventuring for 7 years off and on. I mean, you've lived a pretty awesome life.
Oh, I have, and we're just getting started.
Yeah. So like, tell us a little bit more about the water.
Okay, so in 2008, the economy, this is right before I was doing the meditation and the mountain stuff. I just got late, the economy crashed in 2008. This actually started in 2007, and then 2008, it was devastating. And so I had a friend of mine, many years ago, I used to test water for a living, and we used this device called a precipitator. And then I didn't only test, we also sold people on water distillation machines and using steam distillers to drink and purify your water. Which to this day, that's pretty much all I drink. So a friend of mine sent a video on a guy putting electricity in water, and I'm just giving you the basics, and it's 9th grade science really, and turning it on, and those bubbles separate oxygen and hydrogen. And so it was a hydrogen generator, and those bubbles, when they come up, just like in a battery, why they're explosive, is the electrical current in water separates hydrogen and oxygen, and it has to vent. And because it's explosive, that's hydrogen, pure hydrogen gas. So he sent me that video, and my mind just went, oh my God, I know this, you know, like, wow. So I became pretty much a mad scientist because I knew nothing about hydrogen technology, and especially using water as the fuel.
Yeah.
And so I became enthralled with it. So using water as a source, and it formed a company, actually. It was called United H2O. LLC, and I did this for a year. So by the year 2009, I was already advancing up to where I was making my own product, charging it $2,000 for the average car to install it in it. We advanced in manipulation of the ECU, the engine computer, and readjusting the MAP sensors or the MAF sensors to change the lean to rich mixture. So I was ready to go on the news, and I did make an article in the Bend Bulletin.
I remember.
And it was ridiculed. And they had like the title, "Man finds a way to make cars run on water." It's like, I didn't find a way. It's been around forever. Yeah. It's been around actually since the 1600s. I just found my design and was bold enough to express that. I had a connection with a guy named Bill Myers. And if anybody looks up Stanley Myers water ran car back in 1993, he was poisoned at a Crackle Barrel restaurant and killed. He was killed. Wow. And there's all sorts of stuff on YouTube you can see about that. And it's not a conspiracy theory. It's a fact, because his brother, Bill Myers, got a hold of me once I made the article. And he says, I've got my brother's blueprints. I want to send them to you in the email. So I got a hold of his brother's. Sorry, we got bees here.
Yeah, they're bugging us right now.
I got his brother's email.
He's going to land on you.
I know. Go away.
We've got some wasps.
I don't mind them landing on me, but when they crawl in your shorts and you don't know they're there and you get stung. And our neighbors have bought a couple of beehives, so this is the new thing here. Yeah. And I can't swat them away. All right. I love bees too. I don't mind. What is with my leg?
They like that little crack right there. They want to sit there.
Jiminy Christmas. So.
The joys of being outside doing interviews.
So what happened to me after I was on Lars Larson's and I made the news, my company name was provided, so I had people look me up, and I had investors coming from all over the place. I had people wanting, how much do you need? How much do you need? And I'm honest, and I said, well, there's like 4 or 5 phases to this process. The first phase is purely I need funding to experiment and fine-tune this. And I can't tell you how long it's going to take and how much money it's going to take, you know. So I discourage people from doing that first. But in the process of that, I got 2 threatening calls, and they were. I didn't really believe this happened, but it's happened to several people. Jack Nicholson got shut down in 1970s. He was part of, you can look him up, he's on YouTube, Water Ran Car, Jack Nicholson. When I got the calls and I knew, especially the second call, God dang you.
He's going up your pants right now.
Stop it, dude. I gotta keep my legs crossed.
Right.
I know how it feels to be a female now in a dress. Jiminy Christmas. So I got 2 calls, and the first one was, and I don't know who it's from. People are like, who do you think it was? It could be government, it could be the oil companies. They were really against this. Is this Mr. Juliano? Yes, it is. United H2O LLC, yeah, because you need to stop. And I'm like, why would I stop? You need to stop. Click. And then a couple days later, I got another call from a different voice. You know, is this LLC, United H2O LLC? Yes, it is. Who am I talking to? Because now I'm getting suspicious.
Yeah.
You're talking to the last person you need to ever talk to. And I'm thinking it's competitors because there's other people doing this stuff. But you can tell that a real threat is a real threat. There's like a dark something with it, even if it was a competitor. And he pretty much said the same. I can't remember word for word, but it was like, you need to stop now, you know. And there was no, I'm going to kill you or shut you down. But there was a guy in Portland not too long ago that was killed because of that same thing. And so I said, I'm just not ready for this, you know. So I got out of it.
Well, might have saved your life getting out of it.
Maybe. It wasn't that important to me.
Yeah.
So.
You've also done motorcycle travel.
Yeah,
That was a big part of your life.
That was a great time, man.
7 years off and on.
7 years off and on, many miles all over the West, and 60-70% of the time out in the wilderness, you know, dual sport riding. I've ridden motorcycles most of my life since I was 9, you know, since I was a kid. And I've had every bike you can think of. And I didn't ride for about 8 years, and then I got to thinking about it. I live here in Oregon. Why don't I have a dual sport motorcycle? And I've never really done that before. It was either street or strictly dirt bike. You know, so I really took to that, the full-on camping and the gear, like what you're doing, but by motorcycle. I wasn't that committed. But I just loved it, and the adventures, and how some days are much rougher than others, or some half a day's. You know, it's usually like it doesn't make the whole. Like you're gonna have a bad day, but it's not the whole day. You know, it's like stick around because it's probably gonna get better, or hey, it's going great. Is everything smooth? And then no, it isn't.
Right.
You know, I loved. It got me in better shape at the time. It created great conversations when I'm out there, like you loaded up at a gas station.
And people love coming up and being like, wow, what are you doing? Like,
they're going to their work like we've done, going to their job. It's a Monday morning, and I'm there drinking a coffee with my dirty bike all packed up with 90 pounds of gear. Sleeping out in the wilderness for 3 days, you know, and I'd pull out my little fold-in chair and just drink coffee and check my messages. And what are you doing? Where are you going? Hey, are you gonna stick around town? You can come stay at our place. The motorcycle thing, everybody's like, but we got some. You can camp with us tonight if you want to, which I did a couple of times. I loved it. And then what happened for me? I just stopped last year. So I remember I made a stop somewhere. I was going to camp, and all of a sudden there's all these homeless people. And, I first stopped at Detroit Lake, which I usually go up there and stay, but there was a forest fire the year before. So everything,
of things were shut down.
A lot of gated areas. I saw more between here and Idaho, so that was discouraging. And then I would find another route, and there was homeless people. I'm not talking adventurers like you. These are thrashed out cars and drugs and cans and garbage everywhere. You know, I'm not going to camp around them, you know. And then I got to Idaho, there was more gates, and I just bored of riding my motorcycle. And I thought, you know, that's just something I'm going through. You'll ride through it. But what happened was I saw the world closing up more and more. And then as I was getting bored, and I usually ride 95% of the time I travel by myself. So I found myself, because when you're out by yourself, especially on a motorcycle, riding, and you're 30 miles out of civilization, no cell phone, you have to pay attention.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because it's too easy to slip in the rocks and the dirt and wreck, which you do all the time. It happens all the time on a bike.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. You become a professional wrecker, you know, and you really do. But a slow speed wreck, I tell people a medium speed wreck is good. Slow one is usually where you get hurt.
Really?
Yeah, because you try to overcompensate.
You
you
tense
try to
up.
hold that weight up, and that's how you
Yeah.
break bones and pull ligaments. And a fast speed wreck is you're just rolling the dice.
You're done.
Lacerate. I got to pedal down to the bone here. And so I caught myself starting to speed up and ride more advanced, and because I love the dance, and to make it less boring. And then when I was riding through cities, I was not paying attention as much as you need to, especially on a motorcycle, because you're invisible.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
And so I came back home, and I was like, and I just put all this money into this bike. I built my own bike. So I put the motorcycle up for sale, and I knew I was just done.
That's the same with me. You know, I love the FJ, but at times I'm like, I don't know. Do I want to do it as much anymore?
Right.
You know, I go back and forth between that, like wanting something different or wanting a piece of property now to start building on that and do that. Because, like you said, a lot of gates, a lot of closed areas, and that makes it difficult being out there, because trying to find camp spots or places that aren't crowded is so difficult.
Are you finding also this year more uncomfortable strangers?
No, I've never actually.
Okay. You know what I mean by that. Obviously,
I know what you mean by that. I mean, I haven't really. I mean, there's a couple spots where it's like, kind of uncomfortable, but I've never really experienced anything too uncomfortable to the point where I didn't want to be there.
Right.
I mean, there are times where I'm like, why is that car coming and parking right next to me?
Yeah, what the?
But I was at like a lookout point, so it would make sense why this person came.
I've had people do that on my motorcycle. I'm in the middle of nowhere, and there's somebody who goes past me, and they come back and park right next to me. I'm like,
you're like, why of all the places?
There's like, and then I'm like, maybe they feel more comfortable around me, you know, like being around people.
Yeah. But no, I've never experienced anything like super crazy like that. Nothing that I was too alarmed from. The only experience I had was with my friend, and it was a weird car. They came pulling up to us middle of the night, turned off their lights, turned their car off, honked their horn, got out of their car and started walking towards us. And I was like, oh, heck no. I was like, where's my gun? Oh, heck no. Because I was like, But I think they were just trying to find a camp spot.
Oh.
I think maybe their buddies were camped up ahead and they turned their lights off, which still to this day, I'm like, why did you turn your lights off and honk? Apparently, I've learned, somebody told me that's actually a drug deal that they do in Oregon sometimes.
Oh, wow.
That's how they exchange the drug, because they're supposed to honk and turn their lights off, and whoever's buying the drugs is supposed to come up to them.
Oh, wow.
Well, definitely wasn't us.
They leave their parking lights on?
No, complete darkness.
Complete black, so they probably had night vision and
I don't know.
Looking for.
I don't know. Yeah, complete black.
And I learned like stuff like that, too. If it's just giving you the chills, which isn't that often, then just trust that instinct.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
And then Starlink, the first time I saw Starlink, I freaked out. It's like, oh my gosh, aliens!
Oh, it's amazing. Videos don't do it. We had it pass up here.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe how big it was. The videos people take, it makes it look like it's this little faraway thing. No, it looks like a freaking chain of spaceships.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Bright lights close. I was like, what? I got video of it, and it just made it look like this little small, blurry thing.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I hear you have 2 books that you can actually purchase off Amazon if you guys are curious. So explain a little bit about the books. Don't give away the full details, because I'm sure people would be curious and want to check them out, but kind of give us like a rough idea of what they're about.
For 7 years, I studied dreams. I had something happen to me, and it was the most amazing thing that's ever happened to me. I had a dream that I got shot 3 times in the chest, and it was so real. And I actually died and woke up in bed, and it was like, oh my God, it was so real.
Yeah.
And it scared me. And so I called a friend of mine up in Alaska to ask him, he was a dream reader, and I didn't really care about any of this stuff at this point, And so we talked for about an hour on the phone, well, dreams of getting shot could mean this and not necessarily that. And, and I'm listening to it for an hour. Now I'm awake and, and I'm like, oh, it's just a bad dream. But it was so real. Yeah, it's like, thank you, John, thank you for your input, and I'm good. I hang up the phone, he calls me back like 10 minutes later. And he says, Rob, you got to tell me, it's really important you tell me how you felt when you knew you were going to die in the dream. And I'm like, what's going on? And he says, it's really important you tell me. And I said, okay, well, it was a few seconds of fear. And then it was really familiar. Like I've done it a billion times. It was really, I could feel like the buzzing in your ear, the energy that you can hear in your ear, whether you have tinnitus or if you're in a quiet place, you can hear the hissing noise. Yeah. I heard after I got shot, there was no pain, but I knew it was devastating. It was deep, like just bam, 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 and I knew there's no way I'm walking, I'm living through this in my dream. So I heard that energy noise, like shutting down, and then it was a few seconds of fear, like, oh my God, I'm shot, I'm dying, I'm gonna die, and then it was like, oh, this is really familiar. Like this was really nothing. Like the death experience and transitioning was like, oh, why was I afraid of this? Yeah. And so it was a good, very like, oh, this is like a leaf falling off a tree. It's not a big deal, like nothing to be afraid of. And I told him all that, and then he says, okay, I really needed to hear that because my brother just got shot 3 times in the chest and killed. Oh my gosh. This morning. Wow. True story. And so after that happened, I said, because I've had things like this happen before in dreams. Yeah. And I said, I need to pay attention to dreams, because we spend so much time asleep. If you live to the age 75, you add up all the hours you sleep every night and combine them together. I think it's like 20, what was it? I can't remember, something like 20 years of your life you're asleep. Wow. If you were to add up all the hours, 6 hours that a normal person gets. Wow. But you dream 9 years of your life if you combine every night you sleep. So I started studying these dreams. And so I studied this for 7 years. 3.5 years I was commissioned because I was drawing them. Like I'd get up 3 in the morning, a really loud dream would happen. And for 3.5 years of that 7 years, I was in this art studio downtown Independence, Oregon. I was there to paint. I was commissioned to paint, to sketch, and to write about all the creativity coming to me through this process that I dedicated myself to. So most people won't even understand it or really get it because not a lot of people think the way that you think. But you really don't ever want to have another relationship, which blows most people's minds. They can't comprehend, wait, you don't want to share your life with somebody. I can give a lot of reasons why. Yeah. I can teach a class on why. Yeah. I can help convince you, but that's none of my business. And I don't think what I do is right for everybody. But you have to be willing to, live this life fully and experience all these things to finally narrow it down to the who am I, So I'm on a whole different mission in life than the, get married, have kids, and I've never wanted that. I've known all along I never wanted to be married with kids. Yeah. So I've done everybody a favor. Really, I've done possible spouses a favor. Yep. And I've given myself a liberation and a freedom to have the adventure I've had in my life all my life. True. And you can be 100% confident too when you say he does not want that. Like, he's my uncle. I can vouch for him. He's been like this for a very long time. And when he says he doesn't want a relationship, he says that with full confidence, and he knows it. Yeah, it's not even a thought. He's happy with himself. Yes. Completely happy. And that's insane. A lot of people actually can't be fully happy with themselves. They have that urge or that need. They feel like, oh, I really want somebody in my life. I have to have somebody with me in their life. And even if you tried to explain it to me, I'm still in that stage where I wouldn't comprehend it fully. I'd be like, what do you mean you don't want to share your life? I mean, what? Well, and I think it's all based on an inner value. Somebody who roams this earth without the need of others to fulfill a lack inside is a a person that better understands who they are.
Yeah.
It doesn't make them better. They just better understand who they are. You know, I've been called a Sigma male. And I've seen the different definitions online of what a Sigma male is, and I can see where I associate with that because I've never experienced loneliness. I miss people in life, but I'm extremely independent to where it would frustrate anybody that is trying to form a relationship with me.
A lot of people would call that emotionalist, but how do you perceive that?
The what?
Just not wanting anything with anyone or not being lonely. Like a lot of people would be like, well, what, do you not have feelings then? Like, are you?
Oh, I used to hear,
I'm sure.
Yeah, I used to hear that all
right?
the time. You've turned into Spock.
Yeah.
You know, which, you know, either we're supposed to be this emotional decision maker like Captain Kirk, who did run the ship, and then you have the logical, unemotional Spock. But even Spock had emotions.
Yeah.
The difference is, are your emotions, you know, we take this roller coaster ride. You know, it's like you know, you're young and full of yeah, you know, it's a roller coaster ride of emotions that are like mountains and canyons. But as you put your time in life and you're experimenting with your emotions, I think what we really want to find is inner peace. And so as we go through more experiences, and they're great in the honeymoon phase, and then you get to the normalcy phase, and then you know, then the person just becomes normal to you, and now you're holding on to trying to keep the physical aspects of things more interesting and more loose and more free. I just had this innate ability to question that and say, do you really want the huge sweeping roller coaster ride? And so what happens is you get wiser through time and experience, you know, it just becomes little peaks and valleys. And you ask yourself better questions without being emotionally tooled to put the pressure on you of, I need to really live, you know, through really love, you know, it's a youthful thing, but important to go through. But there's a lot of benefits to not dating, a lot of benefits, and there's no emotional loneliness. You just close the book on it. That sounds sad to people. You just go, the end. Okay, so what happens after you close the book? You're here.
Yeah.
You're living, and you can come and go, and you don't have to explain yourself. And you know, especially with my adventure in life and what I've been seeking in my life, it would be very hard to drag a partner through it.
Well, even my lifestyle too is actually very hard unless they have that same lifestyle. But even then, that can be hard too because everyone is so different and so unique. Each individual has all these things that they want in life. And me, being a very independent woman who does the full-time travel and wants these things, it's hard to bring somebody into that will match the same energy, the same mindset, the same everything.
Some people, it's funny, the people I know that have watched me be single so long and not pursuing that type of lifestyle, you know, years ago it was considered there's something wrong with you if you're not married and have kids.
Yeah.
You know, and now people are more acceptance of that. In fact, divorce rates increased tremendously across the nation as
really has.
Male and female are going through an evolution with each other. There's a big evolution going on between male and female right now, and it's not easy.
Actually.
It's not easy, but it will become more evolved, more inclusive, more equal. So who knows, if I am alive that long to where I see us evolve into that understanding as male and female, then I might she might be an angel coming out of the sky and landing in front of me because, you know, after dating so much and playing so much, I learned that if I want the miracle of a relationship that my parents had, and very few people I've met that have this, then I got to stop thinking about what I want like I'm out buying a car or something. You know, so every time you think about what you think you want in a relationship, you're already coming with conditions. When really the mission is to surrender and see how that fails, and it will continue to fail and fail and fail and fail. And I used to do business. I've did business with thousands and thousands of retired people for 27 years, and I've seen the difference between a normal marriage, an acceptable marriage, and most people that are married when they're older, they just accept it. And there's nothing wrong with that if they're working coherently and respectfully with each other. And then very rarely you see that retired couple that really loves each other.
So even though you're my uncle and I know quite a lot about you already as it is, there are some things that I still don't fully know. I remember you telling me a story about you were kicked out at a very young age. Can you go a little bit more detail what that entailed? Because you're more of the rebel of the family, like how I am the rebel of the family, but your life has a lot more interesting details.
Yeah, I was 18 years old. What happened was this, I got out of high school when I was 17. I'm, 1984. I met my dream girl, my girlfriend, did what we all do when we're young. We fall in love with falling in love. I thought she was the one. And, and we were dating. Her mom wrote her a letter saying, "I'm dying of cancer. You get everything in the house and you'll never see me again. I love you." And I was with Grandma and your mom and your Uncle Ed, and we were in Illinois visiting relatives, and we drove all the way there in winter. And my girlfriend called me up and told me what was wrong, and I needed to get back. I was like, I need to get back, and I really was concerned about her. Obviously, it was a very, very awful thing that happened to her. And I didn't have the money, and so I was begging, like I would not take no for an answer from Mom and Dad to, I need to get back. So what happened was they had enough of me pushing, and they bought me a bus ticket, and I rode a bus from Chicago all the way back to Bend, Oregon, and they told me, once you get home, you're out, you're kicked out. So I was kicked out. It was winter time, was not welcomed in the family. And it wasn't because of drugs, it wasn't because of drinking, none of that stuff. It's just I was very ambitious. When I wanted something, I would just dominate, and they couldn't tolerate it anymore. And in the meantime, they just lost their business and they were losing their home. So they had a tremendous amount of pressure on them. So I was kicked out and lived in my car for a little while. And that continued for about 8 months. I somehow scraped up the money and went to Arizona. And in the middle of August by this time, and lived in my Fiat Strata.
That's a small car to live in.
Yeah, usually people when they're homeless, they live in like a Cadillac or a van, just something big. But here I am, 6'2", and my girlfriend was tall, and she's living with me now. And
oh wow, both of you.
Yeah, and a Fiat, which is this, it was like a Volkswagen Rabbit, and this was in the dead of summer in Phoenix, and no air conditioning.
Ooh.
And that was quite the experience. I mean, we had to keep the car cool. It had a vent on top of the hood, a box, and the vent was there, and the air would go through there and into the car. So I would stop at a motel, actually off of Bell Road, Phoenix, Arizona, the Red Lion Inn, and I stole one of their white ice buckets.
Oh.
And so I would fill that up, and we would drive out of town, just far enough out of town because I was embarrassed and ashamed of being homeless and sleeping in my car, and I had this beautiful girlfriend, and we didn't feel safe in the city. So we would drive out of town a little ways, and then I would park on a hill, just a little bit of a slant. We'd roll the seats back, and I would turn the car off, run the battery, run the vents, and that ice would keep us cool, and as best it could. And then the battery would run out, and the next morning I would just, clutch it first gear, roll it down the hill, and then pop the clutch and start the engine and go do what we had to survive.
Wow, yeah. I actually didn't know you lived in your car with a girlfriend when you were younger.
Yeah.
Which is crazy, because I was always thinking, I'm the only one in my family that does this. Nobody's ever done this before. Oh, apparently somebody has in my family. I'm not the one that's out.
Well, and I didn't do it voluntarily like you did.
True, yeah.
It was a heavy time in my life because I had this girlfriend, my first responsible being in my life, and I felt so incompetent, And at that time, we didn't have cell phones. To get a job was really hard to do. So where do they call? You know? So I took a job. I was bending scaffold. In fact, it was the scaffolding they used to fix the Empire State Building. And I had this job for about a week, and I thought I was going to die, because I would drive there. I'd drop Tia off at a library or somewhere where she'd have to hang out for 8 hours a day, someplace cool. And I'd be out there in 100 degrees, 115 degrees with metal scaffolds.
Yeah, which is even hotter.
Rebending them because, they get bent when they were using it. And with that much heat, and we had to take salt tablets and drink water, and then I had no place to shower after sweating all day. So I'd go back to this Texaco gas station close to the motel where I got the ice and use their sink to clean off and change clothes. And it took one day where I just couldn't wake up, and there's no alarm. I had no alarm, no phone, no nothing. And I slept in. and drove to, my job, and they said, we can't have you, so it was very, very difficult time, but I learned so much. I mean, it was,
being put in a situation where you have to take control and you have to grow up pretty quickly can definitely change, and you learn things from that you wouldn't learn in any other situation.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. So apparently the girlfriend didn't work out, because you have been single for how long now? And tell us a little bit more about your past history with like dating and that type of stuff.
So my first girlfriend, Tia, she was one of the hottest chicks in town, and so everybody had a crush on her. After being homeless, we tried to reestablish ourselves, and a lot of favors and things like that. One day I walked in, we were staying at a friend's house, and I walked in and my friend was sleeping with her. And at that age and not knowing what I knew, it was devastating to me. I mean, it was so heartbreaking that I didn't get mad at my friend. It was her choice, I mean, I was upset with him. Yeah. And then we came back home, and I still dated her for about another 8 months. And I found out she slept with 4 other people. Yeah. So obviously I'm with the wrong person.
Obviously, yes.
But I was raised, mom and dad, grandma and grandpa, they had the most beautiful marriage. Yeah. When they would get upset with each other, there was no yelling and screaming. They discussed things. So the whole experience with a person that yelled abusively was new to me. And then the decisions she made, with sleeping out of people at such a young age, and I was so dedicated to her, and I thought she was too, going through the hard times. Because I used to tell her, let's get through these hard times. We'll never forget it. One day, after finding all this out and catching her, I was laying on the couch watching The Godfather. I was having these blackouts, just and I know today what it was anxiety. And one day I packed up my motorcycle and I said, I gotta go. I got to get out of this relationship. And right after that, because I was so hurt, I became a player. I was able to replace that experience, the physical aspects of being involved with somebody, because that was my medication. That was my go-to thing, because I didn't smoke weed. I didn't do drugs. I started partying and drinking, though, and I became part of the popular crowd. And then that would go, and then crazy, no regrets. A lot of men wish they could have gone through that and at least get to the point where I did, where I got sick of it. So then I would settle down again, and I just kept attracting that same personality. I learned in life that, there's a certain attraction where you have the same type of person. Long story short, I ended up dating, committed to 8 different women in my lifetime that would live together, work together, and some of them were just wonderful. And then at this point, it was me, because I was so focused on working and making money. I became an Andrew Tate type person, if you all know who he is. That was my solution in life, is just make a lot of money, take control of my life, and I did. And then the last girlfriend I had turned out to be an absolute nightmare for me, and for her too. Yeah. And we were vinegar and water. You couldn't mix it together. And we dated for 3.5 years, and it got really, really ugly and abusive, not physically. Yeah. Just psychological abuse. And then she did do some crazy things, like dump a whole glass of water on my face when I was asleep, and I thought I was drowning. And then the same night, I got up and I fell back asleep, and I got up and she was cutting my pajamas off with a pair of scissors. So I felt this cold piece of metal up my leg. And I woke up, now I'm mad. I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? This is crazy. Imagine you waking up with some silhouette and a piece. Yeah, that'd be scary. She goes, I'm just trying to change the mood. And I'm like, what? What mood? What are you trying to turn the mood into? And it was some sexual pajamas off, and the clothes off and stuff like that. At that point, I didn't know what to do. I was actually scared. Yeah. I didn't know how to treat this. And I pinned her down on the bed and yelled at her, stop trying to control me. Stop, you like this. Stop trying to control me. And I was squeezing her wrist and everything. Yeah. And then I went and slept on the couch, and just felt like just a piece of crap. Yeah. Literally, like I don't deserve to date ever in my life. Obviously, I don't know what to do. So the next morning, I hear a knock on the door, and it's 2 cops. She left that morning. She went down and filed a report, domestic violence report, and she did confess to what she did. Oh, okay. So she actually could have gone to jail. Yeah. in the state of Washington at that time, it's a no tolerance law, which means if there's any domestic dispute called in, somebody has to go to jail.
Really?
Yeah. And they took me in, and I spent 2 nights in jail just going, what the heck? Oh, this is so trashy.
Yeah,
This is not a life I ever planned on having in my life. So embarrassed. And long story short, I had to go through counseling, 1 year probation. And they told me, so we don't think you have an anger issue. We think you have a bad choice in women. And that's really what they said.
Yeah.
And they said, I want you to go through our classes for the next year so you can see some of the red flags. And I thought it was a punishment at first, and the counselor kept saying, dude, you're not being punished, we're educating you. And he asked me, what were some of the rules you had years ago that you said you would never date, that you just stuck to? And I said, well, I don't want to date somebody super religious, I don't want to date somebody with kids, and I don't want to date somebody that was married. And he goes, well, she was 5th generation Mormon.
Yeah.
She had 4 kids and was married. Why did you break your rules?
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. And then I learned, I said, well, I just lost my big business.
Yeah.
So my ethos, my confidence was completely destroyed. And she wasn't even my type, I hate to say that. But at that point, I was like, maybe I should give a different type a chance.
A chance, yep.
And maybe this is love, So I gave in to my rules. And then he asked me another thing. He said, what do you want to do when you're with somebody that you love and you're having a relationship with? I said, ultimately, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to make him happy. And he looked at me, he goes, well, that's pretty darn controlling. I was like, and I didn't understand that at first.
Yeah.
A lot of people won't understand that.
Yeah, they won't.
What do you mean controlling? He goes, you already decided that you're happier than that person, and you felt it's your job to go into this person's life and add to what you think they're lacking. And
See, I've heard the opposite of that. I've heard, I don't want you to rely on me for your happiness. And I didn't understand that too. I was like, what do you mean you don't want to make me happy? Like, that confused me as well. So that's interesting.
yeah.
That there's 2 different sides. There's you want to make them happy, or you don't want to make them happy. It's like, which one is the right one?
Well, as the Buddhist monks teach, it's the middle. It's a balance between the 2 hemispheres of understanding. But the counselor, he ended with, I didn't have to go the whole term because I got it. But he said to me, he says, what you want in a functional, happy, very hard to find relationship that's going to last in the concept of love and respect and compassion, you don't want a project. You want to go take on the world, do what you have to do to provide either you or both of you. And when you come home, it should be a place of resting. You're not there to psychologically teach anybody. And as Byron Katie says, minding your own business is a full-time job. And if you're in your husband's business, you're in your boyfriend's, your girlfriend's business, if you're always in their business, who's in your business? So the best thing we can do for each other is be in our own business and appreciate that person that can leave you any day.
Yeah.
And that keeps the glue versus caging somebody. Anyway, so I have been single, no girlfriends for 18 and a half years. I did ordain as a Buddhist monk and not in the traditional form of it where I'm in a temple meditating. Almost did. Because I ran out of story. I ran out of ideas.
Yeah.
And I've been through every scenario. Well, not every. I never tried a guy or anything.
What?
Yeah.
Everyone's doing that nowadays.
Yeah, it's kind of, yeah. No, I never even crossed
No hate,
my
guys.
mind.
No hate.
But I tell people, there's a difference between love and lust. And lust is something that just gets sicker and sicker and sicker and more creative. And the next thing you know, these people are doing really disgusting things. And, and later on, they're like, what the heck? Whoa. So I lost interest. Maybe I've turned asexual. I don't know. It did start with that I don't deserve to be in a relationship because I turned out to pin somebody down and I saw a side of me I didn't. But also with the counseling I had, I saw the red flag. I see red flags constantly out there today.
Oh, yeah.
And have for years. And then if you do it long enough, single long enough, you have the seasons come, like fall, the first 2 years of being single and deciding to never date again. You know, fall time is the cuddle blankets, watch a movie, eat the foods.
Oh yeah, the time where you want to feel comforted.
Yeah.
Starting to get a little bit colder, you're starting to get a little bit more lonely. You're like, oh, I wish I had somebody to hold me.
Hey, honey, let's watch a movie,
right.
wrap up in a blanket, and eat comfort food and get fat for the winter.
Yep. Hibernation, right?
Yeah, hibernation. And so that would, you know, the first 2 years I would kind of miss that, you know, that type of thing. But after, and I saw so many red flags, and I fully understood, based on how my mom and dad, your grandma and grandpa treated each other, that was what I was raised with. It's functional, it's loving, it's compassionate, and it's very hard to find today. So after the 2 years of getting a little hits and like, it'd be nice to have a girlfriend, it just went away.
Well, I really hope you guys enjoyed that. I know it's a little different than what I'm normally showing, and I might end up doing a lot more interviews. So stick around. Let me know in the comments below if you actually liked interviews and if you want me to do more. And any other comments. I love answering your comments. So thanks again, guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment down below, and share this video with your friends and families. Bye, guys. Let's go.
Sun is shining, but the rain is welcome too. Friends are nearby, don't need another view. Time is not on my mind, but then it's you. Oh, I love it when the love comes around, and then I remember all things must pass. But I'm not gonna wake up. I'm not ready, let me have another day. Don't wake up. Keep it steady, cause I'm happy, I'm not gonna wake up. No, no.